Let's get some more reaction to the politics of the day. I'm joined by Simon Banks and Parnell Palm McGuinness. Great to see you both. Parnell, what's your take on this wages decision by the Fair Work Commission?
Look, I think they were trying to hit a middle ground here because, of course, it is important that people on an award wage, on the minimum wage, get an increase which helps out with inflation, but without driving inflation further. You will hear a lot from business about concerns about productivity, but of course a lot of these frontline workers are not exactly the ones who are going to be able to be more productive as such. These are people who are providing person-to-person services, childcare, flipping burgers, that sort of thing. So I think overall we can consider it a good outcome, with an eye to inflation not going up too much.
Indeed, that's certainly what I'm picking up from economists, that this is a good, reasonable and restrained decision, Simon Banks. But I guess the government can also say that it is just above inflation where it stands at the moment as well.
Exactly. And look, when the government got elected, one of the things it wanted to make sure that it achieved was to reverse the policy of the previous government, which was to suppress wages and to try and deliver modest but sensible real wage increases. And it looks like the judgment of the Fair Work Commission, the independent commission, I add, is going to add to that. And of course, if you already heard from Kirsten McBain and other Labor MPs so far today, of course, that will add to the tax relief, which is coming from 1 July, relief to the cost of medicines, relief to other measures like energy bills out there in the community. So I don't think anyone's going to pretend this is going to ease the squeeze on Middle Australia, but I think it will relieve some of that pressure that Middle Australia is feeling at the moment.
Is it also the challenge, as Parnell put it, Simon, that the government needs to articulate a plan on productivity because it's been flat or worse for some time now?
Yeah, and this goes well back into the previous government, that sort of flat, productivity agenda. But if you look at Future Made in Australia and what it's trying to do, which is to drive investment into productive industries of the future, growth industries of the future, areas like hydrogen and critical minerals and the like, they are the sort of industries that will drive growth. They are highly skilled, highly proficient industries that can deliver, good economic returns for Australia over a long period of time, but do so with highly skilled workforces. So they're the sort of areas that Australia should be investing in to set up our economy for the future.
And when you look at the broader political equation here, Parnell, the government did, through its budget, through the energy rebates, but those tax cut changes as well, they've had this cost of living issue front of mind. So are we seeing the various institutions here balancing out with the Fair Work Commission, maybe not going as far as it might have done if those other policies weren't in place?
Yeah, I think that is what the message was. It was that we're trying to do something about the cost of living. But to get to what Simon was saying on the Future Made in Australia, that's where it all comes unravelled. So there are some great messages about cutting tax for Middle Australia, about wage increases, about those sort of important frontline things. And at the same time, you've got this fantastical strategy where millions, billions of dollars of taxpayer money are being pumped into hypothetical energy sources with no return to the Australian taxpayer at all. There's no equity scheme that we're aware of where the Australian taxpayer gets to own part of this. There's not even a sort of a business case process that we're aware of at this stage where we know that there is going to be a return on the investment. At this moment, all we know is that this money will be going to whoever lobbies the hardest, and that tends to be, government favourites at this stage. So there's not just a picking winners issue here, there's also a rent issue, sort of rent-seeking issue, and that's the last thing we need baked into the economy when we're concerned about productivity.
Simon Banks, is this a vulnerability for the government?
No,
in that sense?
Parnell's got it wrong, because if you actually look at the centrepiece of the policy, it's actually about production credits. You actually have to produce things and make a profit selling them in order to be able to get the tax offset. So, in fact, I think she's actually misunderstands the policy here. The policy here is not driven by just cash out the door and who cares about the consequences. In order to be able to actually claim those tax credits, the business are actually going to have to be productive and profitable. That's how the system actually works. So quite differently from how she's described
it has to produce something, not an outcome, though.
No, it has to produce, for example, hydrogen or critical minerals, but you only get the tax credit if you're paying tax. In other words, if you're making a profit. So it actually rewards the very productive outcomes that we want in our economy going forward.
Simon and Parnell, we've got to wrap it up.